Hi, I'm Zeke with the Eastside Church of Christ in Baytown, Texas. Thanks for joining us for week 13 of our Eastside Bible reading for April 5th through 11th, 2020. We're continuing in the book of Joshua, and we'll finish it this week. And we'll also get into the book of Judges, as well as continuing our New Testament reading through the book of Luke and also some Psalms as well. Well, when we get to our reading in Joshua's book, it continues with the account of the division of the land. Now, there's a lot of detail in the dividing up of various parcels of land to the Israelites, and people tend to skip over that. But really, in those details, as minute as they are, is an emphatic pronouncement that God had kept his promise. The land was theirs. Chapter 20 tells us of 6 designated cities of refuge that were spread throughout Israel that provided sanctuary for those who had accidentally taken another's life. And also included in the parcels were cities the Levites could live in, 48 of them. They didn't get any large swaths of land like the other tribes did because God and their service to him was their inheritance. Joshua's book continues with a huge misunderstanding in chapter 22 that could have gone catastrophically wrong, but it didn't. Read about it. Finally, the book ends with Joshua's strong exhortation to the people to be faithful to God. Remember that famous statement he makes? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Well, the people affirmed that they would too. After all, the land was theirs. But they would still have to obey God to take it completely and to keep it. And then we get into the book of Judges that opens with some ominous accounts of only partial conquests of the land. Again and again, we're reminded that the various tribes failed to eradicate the Canaanites who were living in the land. And further, after Joshua died and that generation with him, their children forgot and forsook God. Then, beginning a vicious cycle of sin, apostasy, regret, and deliverance by various judges, the Israelites descend further and further into a spiral, a dark spiral of national scope. We read of the exploits of the first few judges in our reading this week: Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, and a woman named Deborah. And we note the character that these judges began with, which was very good in the beginning, but we see a decay in that character with each successive judge, as we'll see throughout our continual reading in the book of Judges. In the New Testament, Luke's gospel continues to show us a very busy Jesus who is healing lepers, telling parables, restoring sight, converting tax collectors, and teaching, always teaching. He enters triumphantly into Jerusalem for what will be his final week. And he knows it's his final week before his crucifixion. But he immediately begins to draw the ire of the religious leadership while alternately condemning them through the parables that he told and confounding them with the answers that he gave in confrontations with them. And that brings us to something that we've seen about Jesus. We've seen how Jesus challenged everyone he came into contact with. People were brought to a decision. That's how it is with him. When you meet him, you'll have a decision to make. What will it be? In the Psalms this week, Psalm 15 answers the question for us, "O Lord, who may abide in your tent?" And we get a description of the character and integrity of a godly person who dwells with God. Psalm 16 extols God's blessings while providing resurrection language that Peter took and used and applied to Jesus in Acts chapter 2. Finally, Psalm 116 extends thanks to God for his gracious help, which is a wonderful reminder to you and me that in spite of things that have gone wrong, that are going wrong, or that may go wrong in the future, we can't forget those things that God continues to bless us with. Things that are physical and material in nature, sure, but there are much deeper and more precious blessings that God gives us every day. We need not only to remember those blessings, but we need to thank Him for giving them to us. Well, thanks for joining us in this week's reading, and I hope that you'll dig in further to your Bible and join us next week for another summary of our Eastside Bible reading. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it, and God bless you.